will, Norm, at the same time, I will open the bylaw subcommittee meeting. I think we both posted for today, so.
I haven't opened yet.
Oh, I thought you opened, okay, sorry.
Started to. Have they been able to resolve this other nights?
No. Well, oh, no, they didn't. They didn't at the select board meeting I attended. They just had to deal with it. So I don't understand why this hasn't been
And what
resolved
we
in the
did
meantime.
at the charter committee is we, dialed in somebody's personal Zoom and got the individuals on that Zoom so we could use them.
Oh, God.
But,
Do you need me to open up the Chromebook and see if I can do that?
we might as well try it, John. I don't know what else to do.
Okay.
Cause, oh gosh, Taylor, she did that for us, but her problem is her Zoom expired. She only had like an hour on it and they must be a time.
Hold on.
I don't know. I don't ask. I don't wanna
You
know.
didn't go any further, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, all I know is it expired and we lost our attorney at the time.
You know,
from,
Skype is, they're deleting Skype.
Skype's gone, I think. I think it's been taken
Deleted it.
down.
They just said no one uses it.
That was one of the first.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
I used that 2 decades ago and it's gone.
Come on.
We had 10 users, so we said we should scrape.
Just like AOL mailboxes are gone.
No internet.
Well, that was the other problem we had too. Our Zoom was dropping because we were losing internet.
Tell me you have no internet.
And see, what I told Paul is, I said, it sounds to me like Spectrum Charter is throttling you, which means they're
Hold on.
Yeah.
limiting your bandwidth
I
and
would like to
throttling.
get out of here tonight.
Well, I have Wi-Fi Town of Rutland guest coming up. Is that what you're looking for?
Can you log into the Zoom?
Before my road, there's a new little.
All right, here we go. So let me see. I may be able to get on here with my phone, but my battery's at 25%.
I'm
So
thinking that
Well, you know what that is? No, it's Verizon. Verizon's trying to get you to go wireless and not use
Technology's
copper lines
great.
anymore.
Get one of those solar batteries.
Gotta have See this middle finger? That's when I say they're wireless crap. I want my copper line.
I want my copper line because if they're not, you know, they're trying to pull
Have you
this
seen your
stunt.
bill on copper? Mine's gone up in the last year, $20.
Yeah.
30% it went up because they wanna
what's
give
the
me
date
off
today?
copper.
April 8th?
Yeah.
Good luck, I'll keep paying.
Exactly,
I want my
but
copper
if that's what's happening to me, and I'm losing it for not only the shop at home, I'll sue them.
So this all goes into a laptop, John?
You get upset when I have a couple seconds of no technology at home.
And I'm trying the link on the thing. It's not working.
Let me see, do I have Zoom here? Zoom. There it is.
You got it?
Well, no, I've got Zoom. Let me see if I can
Yes.
join a meeting. No. Let me see.
You may not have a choice. I mean, can't wait forever on this.
I gotta go to our website and get the code. Rutland.gov. Oh, general bylaws, 147 pages. I think I'll skip that tonight.
John, you did go back there and they can't undo that button, they can't see
No,
it.
that
Okay,
it's
so
not
that's
doing
the
any good.
laptop.
Yeah, it didn't make any difference. Okay, just checking.
So how are we gonna hear from town council when we need to?
Well, if Tim can get his Zoom
Yep.
and share his, then you might be able to get through his phone.
Category is. All categories shut down. Sorry, this is taking me a bit longer because I gotta click 12 different places. That was my shot, Dick.
Mm-hmm.
I took it. Planning board agenda, download agenda. And there's the Zoom link. Let me click on the Zoom link. I'm probably gonna come up on here, aren't I?
Yes. At some
You
point.
will, it'll be automatically muted.
Okay. Do they have to let you in?
Yeah, they gotta let me in.
Guys, Tim's trying to get in on Zoom. Could you please let him in? Okay, so,
I can hear you. Let me see if I unmute. Tap to speak. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Nope.
Roger,
Yeah,
can
we
you
can
hear
still
us?
hear you. We've been able to hear you the whole time.
Oh, no, but we can hear him now.
Because I'm doing it here.
All right, so we've got Tim's phone at least giving us some audio. Okay, so open the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim, if you can mute your microphone, that might resolve the feedback issue.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do without losing guys, because it says it's muted, but hold on.
Well, you're in the room. I think you'll.
It says.
He is muted, okay. All right, we're just gonna have to deal with it. Okay, let's.
The problem is that the town microphone is picking up, I think, the audio and looping it through, and that's what's causing the feedback.
Yep, okay, so we're just gonna have to deal with it, so.
But I noticed Roger does not have a red mic anymore, but Tamika does.
No, she can unmute herself.
Oh,
She can,
that's
yes,
her.
so,
Oh, okay.
can we,
Okay.
Tim,
Yeah,
Tim, would you be able to mute when only the boardman hear? Okay.
all right, so let's just commence and we'll.
Guys, we can't now hear you because
Yeah.
it just keeps echoing.
Can they mute the system in there? Mute these cameras? How's that? Oh, it's echo.
Even worse.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, it's been a while, they need to resolve that.
But we can't wait, we have to open the meeting.
I can try to turn it down.
Okay. All right, we're gonna have to
go
do.
ahead, open.
Roger, give me a test.
1, 2, 3.
Did you hear?
Barely. If I turn this down, you can't hear him.
Roger, can you speak again?
Yeah, test 1, 2, 3, and the feedback is coming through quite strong.
Can you turn down for a second? We're just gonna have to limit our talking while he's talking. You're gonna have to turn it up to hear somebody talk and then turn it back down when we respond. It's gonna have to be just very structured.
I need my stipend for that.
Okay, let's open.
Okay, I'm gonna call to order the April 8th, even though it feels like January 8th, 2025 meeting of the Rutland Planning Board. It's at 6:43 PM. Our first order of business is the minutes of March 25th, 2025.
I'll open up the, while we're looking at the minutes, the Bylaw Subcommittee meeting, April 8th, 6:44.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second that.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
Okay, second item, site plan review application fee.
So at the last meeting, we discussed potentially establishing a fee for site plan approval applications, site plan review applications. I proposed a flat fee, but the board discussed potentially having some kind of tiered fee. So this is what I drafted up and proposed, and I wanted to know what the board thought about this, where if someone comes in for a special permit for a use only, site plan review for a use only, like we had with House Market, it would be $300. If they wanna do exterior renovation, addition and new construction below 2,500 square feet, it's $400. Exterior renovation, addition, or new construction, 2,500 to 5,000 square feet, $500. And anything over 5,000 square feet would be $600.
Norm, through you, the only thing I would change is because the 5,000 could be a large warehouse that might take more resources. I would up that to 1,500.
That's a big jump.
I know, but
Or we could do 600 for 5 to,
the only reason I say that is the other ones are more like small buildings and residential. But when you get above 5,000 square feet, you're jumping into the buildings, warehouses, commercial property, and I think that should be a little bit more.
You're talking $1 million.
okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Roger said you need to turn your audio output on so you can hear the Zoom. All right, town council recommended turning AI companion off. Do you know what he's talking about, what they're referring to?
That's in there.
Okay, so, all right, continue.
I'm unmuted, so I gotta go back and figure out. Okay.
Can you stipulate the prices?
Hold on, ma'am, this is not a public hearing, so, right now.
Okay.
And you have to be recognized first and introduce yourself, so.
The only reason I say that, Norm, is that, like I said, it's the commercial side of it. I can go less. I just think, I like the tier up till we get above 5,000, then I think we should give a little bit of a jump. I don't care if it's 500 then 1,000, but instead of 600, I'm okay with that.
I'm just kind of wondering what kind of construction would only require site plan that would be over 5,000 square feet.
If somebody put a warehouse on a, like on 68, like suppose they wanted to do like those snow blades up there and he wanted to have a warehouse to store it in the back, that could be over 5,000 square feet easily. If he's putting in salt, things that go in the back of trucks.
Spreaders.
Yeah, spreaders, and that could easily be 5,000. I'm just thinking, or if somebody wants to, Norm, put a building up that they're gonna do welding inside of, or fabrication, that could be over 5,000 square feet. I'm just thinking from the commercial aspect, it's the only thing I'm thinking of.
And those are gonna coincide with special permits sometimes if they're outside
No,
the
site
scope.
plan review would be a whole different, would be just by itself, that's all we're looking at. Special
Yeah.
permit would be a whole different
Correct, its own,
fee schedule.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
Okay.
different. Actually, special permit's a flat $500, so.
Could we put in there after the $500 one, up to 5,000 square feet, a per square foot?
You mean per 1,000 square feet? Maybe $100 per 1,000
I'm good
square
with that.
feet?
Yeah.
Right,
Rather than
so $100 per additional
good idea.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
1,000
Better than
square
flat
feet
fee.
of gross floor area.
Yeah, so it's 300 for use,
Yep.
400 for up to 2,500 square feet, which
Yep.
is residential. $500 for 25 to
5,000.
5,000, which is a little bit more than residential, but it could be. And then 600 for 5,000 and above, with, if you go to 6,000, it's another 100, 7,000, it's another 100. And then it just goes
So hold
up.
on, okay, I have to, this is a little bit confusing, I'm gonna have to do some tweaking with it. So how about over 5,000, just take out the $600, keep it at $500. Keep it at $500, but it's $1,000. Anything over 5,000 square feet is another $100 per 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Over the 5, so take out the 600, okay. Okay, I could tweak that.
Now, this is a fee schedule, do we have to do anything in the
Nope.
way of a public hearing?
No, no, it's an administrative change, you can do it, again, you don't have to have a public hearing. You
I
can
would just do a vote
a simple
with the
majority
board.
vote.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to accept the site plan review fee schedule with its modification.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion?
Obviously, if something's like 5,050 square feet, it would still land in the 100.
That'd be the 500. When it gets to 6,000 and.
Right, it would be 500, once it
Yeah.
gets to, once it,
Okay.
so hold on, so basically, once it reaches 500, it would be 500, it would be $500, right?
Yep,
But, if it's 5,100, it would be six.
Oh, okay.
5,200, I'm sorry, no, 6,000. So 6,000 would be an extra 100, 7,000 would be an extra 200. So, is that the way you want it, like 600 for up to 5,000, over, yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah, I'm
500,
just saying if it goes in
but put
between,
another 100 every
yeah.
1,000 square feet.
Correct.
So if it's 5,050, it's still gonna be 500.
100, yeah, I'm fine with
Okay.
that.
Sounds good.
That's all I had.
Anything else? Hearing nothing further, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Norm, I was gonna say, so I keep this down, we don't get feedback. I guess I'd ask through you, anybody that wants to talk, raise their hand, because then I can run the volume up and we can hear them.
Yep.
Does that sound acceptable to the crew out there?
Give us a thumbs up if you hear us.
Or just press the,
Okay, thank you, Tamika. Thank you.
Excellent.
Alright.
alright, I'll leave this loaded so we don't get the feedback. Alright, that's done.
Okay.
Oh, that was 4-0, sorry.
Okay, next item is a public hearing to consider amendments to Article 3, Section 8F, accessory dwelling unit, zoning bylaws.
Would you like me to read the hearing notice?
I'll tell you what, you can read the second one, I'll read this one.
Okay,
How's that?
sounds good.
Okay, gonna open the hearing by reading the public notice. The Rutland Planning Board will hold a public hearing pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, at the Rutland Public Library, 280 Main Street, Rutland, Mass, on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 at 6:30 PM, to consider amendments to Article 3, Section 8F, accessory dwelling unit of the zoning bylaws. These amendments are available for review in the Town Clerk's Office, Community Hall, 250 Main Street, Rutland, Mass. For more information, please contact John Charbonneau, Town Planner and Community Development Coordinator at 508-886-4100, extension 3001, or at jcharbonneau@townofrutland.org. And this was advertised in the Telegram and Gazette on March 25th and April 1st.
So before we begin discussion, I have a brief PowerPoint to give the board and the public. So could you please pull up the PowerPoint that I sent?
Did you see that last chat session?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't? Just wanna make sure.
No, I gotta give this presentation first, so.
Well, it was just saying that the network's the problem, so.
Oh, okay.
whatever
Oh,
we
yeah.
do, I'm not gonna fix
Okay.
this.
All right, so, okay. We can't see the presentation.
Open PowerPoint, there you
Okay.
go.
Thank you. Okay, so we're talking about an amendment to the accessory dwelling unit bylaws for the town of Rutland, Article 3, Section 8F. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
I gotta press the one, there's a arrow at the bottom to move on to, you got 7 slides in this present, there it
Yeah.
is at the bottom. Gotta press that next arrow. Okay,
What is going on?
he goes down to try to press it and the thing pops up.
There we go, thank you. So, this is being done pursuant to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, Section 8 of Chapter 150 of the Acts of 2024. 760 CMR 71, Protected Use Accessory Dwelling Units. So this came down late summer, very early fall. The Affordable Homes Act was signed by Governor Healy on August 6, 2024. One of the things it did was establish a deadline of February 2nd, 2025 for communities to comply with the approved regulations. At that time, it was stipulated that any community that didn't have bylaws that were in compliance with the state regulations, as of February 2nd, your regulations that aren't consistent with the state would be deemed null and void and unenforceable. So basically, it would open the town up for anybody to walk in and just apply for a building permit for an accessory dwelling unit without any type of review by the planning board at all. So, after consulting with town council, the strategy that was decided on was opening the public hearing, which essentially stops the clock. Because as soon as that first legal ad hits the paper for a public hearing, basically it freezes zoning until it's resolved. And we can open a public hearing as much as 6 months in advance before town meeting and keep it going. So that's what we decided to do, and that's why we're here tonight. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what the act does for ADUs, it establishes a comprehensive, consistent, unified definition for accessory dwelling units. It makes certain regulations of ADUs prohibited by the state, establishes ADUs as allowed in any zoning district where single-family dwellings are allowed, and it establishes additional flexibility for ADUs that may not currently be allowed by communities. Next slide, please. Now we're cooking. So prohibited restrictions include a requirement that either the principal dwelling or the protected ADU be owner-occupied. That's currently one of the stipulations in our bylaws. Towns can no longer require that. Require more than one additional parking space for a protected ADU. Any limit, quota, or other restriction on the number of protected ADUs that may be permitted, constructed, or leased within a municipality or zoning district. So we can't put a limitation on it. A requirement that a protected ADU be attached or detached from the principal dwelling. In other words, it includes both. Right now we stipulate that it has to be attached to the principal dwelling. The approval of single ADUs cannot be by special permit, which we currently do. Next slide, please. So, the state, I love when the state does this. They throw out the term reasonable and unreasonable, but yet they don't define reasonable or unreasonable. So, in the bylaw that's been presented to the planning board after consultation with the building commissioner and Austin, the decision was made that, well, if the state is going to be vague, then we can use that same vagueness to our advantage. So, the act prohibits, quote-unquote, unreasonable regulation of various aspects of protected ADUs that do not serve a legitimate municipal interest sought to be achieved by local zoning, serve a legitimate municipal interest sought to be achieved by local zoning, but its application does not rationally relate to legitimate interest. Tell me if you understand that. Serve a legitimate municipal interest sought to be achieved by local zoning and its application rationally relates to the interest, but compliance with the regulation or restriction will result in complete nullification of the use or development of a protected ADU, impose excessive costs on the use or development of a protected ADU without significantly advancing the municipality's legitimate interest, which I find ironic because here they are telling us what we can do, but they keep referring to the municipality's interest. Substantially diminish or interfere with the use or development of a protected ADU without appreciably advancing the municipality's legitimate interest. Next slide, please. So how does the new bylaw, how is it different from our current bylaw? It eliminates the two tiers of ADUs, basic and expanded, because the definition basically caps ADUs at 900 square feet. It's 50% of the gross floor area of the principal dwelling, or 900 square feet, whichever is less. So basically 900 square feet. Eliminates basic and expanded ADUs in favor of all ADUs being consistent with the state definition. It allows single ADUs by site plan review rather than special permit. So, still a public hearing, but the threshold is not as severe. But it allows us, like with the minor home occupations, to have a file on each of these and track these as they're approved. It allows ADUs to be attached or detached from the principal dwelling, which is what the state is dictating to towns. It allows the permitting of multiple ADUs on the same lot by special permit. This is the main concern that towns have, is multiple ADUs on single-family house lots. In essence, basically defeating the purpose of having single-family zoning. It adds definitions from the State Act, and it refines the conditions and requirement for ADUs to be compliant with the State Act. Next slide, please. Consequences of noncompliance. If a bylaw is not approved, any aspect of the town's bylaw that is not consistent with the state act will be deemed unenforceable. This means that any property owner may obtain permits from the building department to construct a single or multiple ADUs on the same lot in a manner consistent with the state act. Multiple ADUs would not require a special permit for permitting if we do not pass a bylaw. Next slide, please. Oh, that's the end of slideshow. So, what I drafted that I presented to the board, basically it complies with the state while doing the best to protect the town. And what I mean by that is multiple accessory dwelling units on a lot are allowed by special permit. We have the language in our zoning bylaws under design standards for special permits that state if something comes before the board for special permit that does not fit with the character of the neighborhood, is going to increase traffic congestion, noise, any of those, and other things. Basically, or density, if it's too dense for the neighborhood, the planning board does have grounds to deny it. That's why I know I know Tim, I was talking to you on the phone, and Dick, this is in speaking with Tim, I know the question came up is why are we bowing down to the state on this? We are not really bowing down to the state because when you think about it, the owner occupancy provision is not really that enforceable because, for instance, we approved an accessory dwelling unit early in my tenure here at Madison Avenue. The gentleman was adding an accessory dwelling unit for his mother-in-law who is elderly. Well, if you fast forward 7, 8, 10 years down the road, what if they sell that house and somebody else moves in? Mm-hmm. They can rent that out, they can rent the house out, they can rent the ADU out, and really the town doesn't find out about it because unless they're doing work to the house, they're not going for a building permit, they're not coming back before the planning board. So really, anybody has the right to buy a house and rent it out currently under law. So really, that's a difficult provision to enforce going forward years into the future after ownership changes hands. So, and again, Tim, you asked about the deed, so I would like to open it up to town council. You had a question about whether or not the deed is affected.
That was the only thing, cause when, I'll say for the board, what I was trying to do was, when I asked that question, is typically when somebody sells a house, they gotta do a title search. And I was curious if this ADU gets recorded against the deed. Roger, you're all the way to the top.
Can you clarify the question? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, my question was, John had mentioned that if somebody moves out of the house, the original owner that had a basically had an ADU, that what we were trying to do in Rutland early on was make sure it was owner occupied to have that ADU. And what John had said is, well, if they move out in 7 or 10 years, somebody buys the house, they could rent the house and rent the ADU and not be owner occupied. And my question was, well, wouldn't that, when they buy the house and they do a title search, indicate that the owner has an ADU there that's required to be an owner occupied ADU? That's sort of my question. I don't know if I'm asking it right, but that's sort of what I was looking to see.
So you mean if there's a prior?
Let me get you back up on
a prior.
Go ahead.
You mean if there was a prior? Are you talking about a prior deed notation for owner occupancy that already exists as of today?
No, if they were given this feedback sucks. If they were putting an ADU, we approved it.
They sell the house years down the road.
Does the ADU get recorded against the deed?
Nothing goes on. No, it's you get a building permit for the ADU. Nothing goes on the deed.
That's all I needed, sir.
Regardless of what your bylaw says now or is going to say after amendment, the state law precludes owner occupancy requirements one way or the other. So whatever is on the books now becomes unenforceable under the state law in terms of owner occupancy for an ADU.
Okay.
So there you have it. So can you turn that down? So that's my point, is that's not really gonna be enforceable going forward, even on ones that we approved in the last year and a half, it looks like. So that's what this bylaw does. This has been reviewed by town council and has gotten their comments. I know Britton had a question, I don't remember the nature of his question, does anyone remember the nature of his question in terms of, Roger, you and I spoke about this, I think you addressed it, do you remember what we spoke about in terms of, it seems to be this, he thinks there's a contradiction in the language of this bylaw, and I don't remember exactly what that was. I think it was the definition.
Yep. So the issue that you and I, John, discussed is the definition of protected use ADU, which is in section F3 sub D. And specifically the second sentence, an ADU that is non-conforming to zoning shall still qualify as a protected use ADU if it otherwise meets this definition.
Yep.
That is the state definition of that term. And while it might be seeming as contradictory to other requirements such as that protected use ADUs have to comply with zoning as that zoning applies to single family use, I think what this second sentence of the state definition is probably referring to is prior non-conforming. So if there is an ADU already and it's prior non-conforming as to the local zoning, but otherwise qualifies for the state definition of protected use ADU, that is the protected use ADU. Because the key with respect to this regulation, and as it's being proposed to be implemented through the amended bylaw, is that each single family dwelling lot is entitled to one protected use ADU as of right. So if there already is one that qualifies for the definition of protected use ADU between the size and other criteria, then that lot would not get another new protected use ADU.
Okay. So that addresses, I'm sorry, that addresses Britton's question. So when this first came out, this is, I think I've said this to the board, this is much different from other mandates that have been handed down from the state, whether it be adult entertainment, medical marijuana, even the MBTA community guidelines for multifamily housing. In the past, what the state has done is they'll go to the towns and they say, okay, here's what we would like. We would like you to establish an area where someone could do this, either by right or no more than site plan review. But we'll let you pick the area, and sometimes they'd stipulate, okay, the area has to be at least X amount of acres in size. This is the first time in 25 years I've seen the state say, no, this has to go everywhere where you allow a certain type of zoning, single-family housing. So to me, this is definitely the most the state has overreached or tried to micromanage a town's land use, in my opinion. And I talked to Tim on the phone about this yesterday. However, we gotta keep our eye on the goal here, because the problem has not been single accessory dwelling units. We've had 4 come before the board in my year and a half. They've all been approved in the same night. So the single ADUs are not the issue. The issue is going to be multiple ADUs, but they're gonna run into potential issues where anything 3 units or above under the building code gets kicked into a multifamily or commercial building code. And in terms, Chief, I think that means fire protection too, correct? So that's gonna be cost prohibitive. We also mentioned that a lot of these new homes that CLE is putting in, the lots aren't very big. You know, there's ledge, they've got steep slopes.
No setbacks.
No setbacks, so they're maximizing these lots in these subdivisions, so there's not the room to do multiple ADUs. And so that's 2 of the issues. The third issue is that most of the areas that this applies to don't have town sewer. They're on septic.
Right.
So if somebody is going to put in multiple accessory, even if they put in a 1-bedroom ADU, they may have to upgrade their septic. If they're starting to put in 2 or 3 ADUs with a minimum of 1 bedroom each, then that's definitely gonna mean an upgrade of their septic system in most cases. So that's gonna be area prohibitive and cost prohibitive, because that has its own setbacks from wells and from the homes and things like that. So they may not, that may be cost prohibitive and area prohibitive.
And the square footage, doesn't have to double or, 1.5 times or whatever.
And Normus, we don't have to put that in our bylaw, cause that's
No.
automatically goes to the
That
Board of
automatically,
Health.
that's not the planning board's problem.
That was my main concern. If we
that
don't
will
have
be
to put
dealt
this
with
in
by
there
the
to tell
Board of Health.
Chris to deal with it on the water side or the Board of Health, then I'm good.
So I think some of the concerns with the multiple accessory dwelling units are gonna be self-limiting or self-regulatory because of those things. Because of space-wise, because of cost-wise. I'm not saying it's gonna eliminate it altogether, but it's going to reduce the potential for them, I believe. So that's my presentation. You know, at the previous meeting, we discussed this, and my feeling is that I know Tim asked about, you know, kicking it to the fall, and I don't think that's a good idea, because we need to have something in place to at least protect us. That way, you know, I don't know if there'll be a flood of people, but there will be people coming in right to the building department saying, I wanna potentially putting 2 or 3 ADUs on a lot, and if we don't have something in place, then the planning board has no say and has no review capability.
I'm fine with that.
So that's what's before you. Like I said, it's been through Rogers, town council has reviewed it. And so that's what I'm asking. I'm asking the board to recommend favorable action for what's in front of you to town meeting in May.
Anything further?
Can I ask a question? More of a hypothetical, hopefully this doesn't, mess anything up or distract too much. Say, I could use the word I, but say someone wants to pay. A friend, yeah, wants to pay full price and have someone build an ADU for them instead of these short-term rentals. So instead of saying, hey, cause are we all assuming if you don't live with the family, you're not part of the family, you're gonna probably rent. Let's say I wanna own my ADU. How does that work into your right to own this?
In other words, have an ADU become a condo?
Yeah, is there any thought behind how that, I don't mean to say that.
Roger, did you hear that?
You know, could that be
I did, and the short answer is that we haven't gotten a good clarification from the Attorney General's Municipal Law Unit on that issue, but it has been flagged.
Good question.
I think actually in our, KP submitted a comment letter when the drafts of the regulations came out and flagged that issue, and it has not been addressed by the state level.
And
So, to be
and to
determined.
Roger's point, in the webinars that I've attended, Harold, the building commissioner, attended one with me. Austin, Harold and I last fall had a meeting with Amy Quessel of Copeland Page, Roger's colleague. And that has been one of the frustrations is the state says, oh, don't worry, guidance is coming, guidance is coming. No guidance has come. And you see the chat boxes.
Yeah.
You see these chat boxes filled up with these types of questions and the state has no answers. So unfortunately, we're dealing with an imperfect situation where the town has basically dropped this on the towns and say, you need to deal with it, but yet they can't answer a lot of the questions like this that come up. So I understand where.
So we're doing this, we're putting an umbrella on top of this until something comes out.
So,
we get something to
and
do.
I'm not, again, what was it? If you ever see the movie U571 with Bill Paxton, he tells Matthew McConaughey's character, as a captain, you have to make decisions based on imperfect information. Unfortunately, we're having to write a bylaw with imperfect information. But nobody has this information, so it's not just us. So that's why I drafted the bylaw like I did. I tried to kind of keep it as simple as possible, as general as possible. It does make our bylaw simpler with, by eliminating the 2 tiers of accessory dwelling units, I think. So it does make it a little bit easier to navigate, but there are gonna be, to Keith's point, that's a great question. Yeah, there are gonna be things that we just don't have the answer to right now,
It seems
unfortunately.
like just a homeowner dispute, say I wanna sell and person in my ADU doesn't wanna leave and that person takes on a friend, a neighbor,
Yeah.
I guess.
So I guess the question that I
That's
anticipate
something else.
at town meeting is then why are we passing this? Because we kinda have to, or else because if we don't, we will be left completely
We have to put
open.
a 50,000 foot umbrella in this, otherwise we have no protection. That's the bottom line.
Correct. correct.
Yeah, okay, I'm done with questions.
And this can't be pushed off.
No,
Can I ask a question? Can they use it as a short-term VRBO?
Name and
Oh,
address and
Mary
stuff.
Wrestler, 5 East Hill.
Thanks, sorry.
Can something like that be used as a rental, a short-term VRBO?
that's prohibited. The
That's
state statute prohibits that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it can't be used for that.
Okay.
That's the one thing they are clear on is short-term rentals are strictly prohibited under state statute.
Yeah, it won't let you make money off it.
I can't figure out how to raise
Of
my
course.
hand.
Section 4, condition
Yes, oh.
requirements, general, the following standards shall apply, but yet an A, protected use, or says must comply. And B is applicant must obtain. Why have you got shall up above and you have must down below? You should.
Would you like me to change shall to must up top?
To my opinion, which one is, if you say shall, that is legal, you have to. Must, you can get around it.
Okay, so I'll change the must to shall.
Protected ADU and must be signed off.
Norm, Tamika has her hand up.
Yep, Tamika?
Keep going.
Hi, I'm actually raising my hand on Alice's behalf because he was trying to talk to you guys, but he couldn't raise his hand.
I don't know if they can hear me.
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
I was just gonna say, real quick, there is an expression, and I'll leave out the colorful language, but it's a good plan enacted now is better than a perfect plan 2 weeks from now. And I think we're kind of in that situation with this where we do need something, and in some extent, something is better than nothing at all.
Yeah, that's exactly the point.
Sorry, let me turn this.
So, Dick, that's a good point. I will change all the musts in that section to shall.
Yes, and there are some, there are more of them.
Yeah, there are more.
Go down
yes.
through them.
Yep, there's a few. I'll catch them.
Yes, okay. Non-conforming, is H on number 4H, lot of principal dwelling is non-conforming prior to issuing a building permit. Of this bylaw shall apply and find by the zoning board of appeals.
Well, yeah, it's like anything else, Dick. If someone needs a variance, a dimensional variance,
Yeah.
to be within the setback or the lot or the structure's non-conforming in some manner, they have to go to the ZBA for relief. That's what that means, and it just says
They have to show
It does
a
have to-
hardship.
A hardship.
And like I said,
Yeah.
they have to show that it's not gonna be more detrimental to the
So
surrounding.
we're giving them an out, so to speak.
Here's the other one.
That's in our current bylaws.
Yeah.
I definitely did not create that.
For some reason or other, back to the first page, 3B, I think it's like the last sentence, where there are municipal principal dwellings on the lot and of the GFA of the largest principal.
Dick, where are you? I'm confused as
Last sentence on
Last-
3B, or
Three-
3B, last
Four,
sentence.
four lines,
Oh,
roughly
okay,
four
Grossville
lines
area,
up.
okay.
Where there are multiple principals, I gotta back off here, dwellings on a lot, and the GFA of the largest principal dwelling shall be used to determine the maximum blah, blah, blah. I said no on that particular one.
That's a state definition, Dick.
And where do they come off telling us what definitions? I mean,
This is my argument too, but the point is, like Alex said, we got no choice. If we don't do anything, the state's gonna basically let people run free rein on Rutland with ADUs. So,
God, just as.
That's
why you had-
John heard it. I was on
you
the
had
phone with him for
not-
20 minutes.
You had
I get
900 up above, and that's why I had the arrow bringing it back down below.
But the key is, with the 900, they can never go bigger than that. If they've got a ranch that's only 1,700
But that-
square feet,
Right. That's right.
But 900 to me would have been all right for.
So that's the thing, it says up above, it says, is not larger in gross floor area than 1/2 the GFA of the, in that case, the largest principal dwelling, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller.
Yeah.
So that would be 900 square feet.
No matter what, they can't go any bigger than that.
Yep.
Now, they could put multiple 900s on the property, but,
Yeah, so if that half goes above 900 square feet, that's it.
yeah.
You can't.
3,000 square foot house, you get 900.
Now, has KP Law come out with a single sheet conservation restrictions on property that we can put in fast on everybody who wants to close the property down and never have anything put on it?
Not even gonna answer that.
Roger's looking, oh, that's a lot of money, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, no.
Because I tell you one thing, I will get out there and start screaming as on the Ag Commission to protect the land and protect our,
Well, it's protected the same as any other property in that case.
yes, but how many surveys say we like open space? And what does this do? It closes it.
This is taking a 3-decker and making it horizontal, that's all it's doing.
Jesus Christ.
Can I ask a question real quick? If it's limited to 900 square feet, but you can have multiple, then
You can have
Is it-
multiple 900 square
yeah,
foot
it's kinda
ADUs.
silly to say there's a minimum, but then you can just skip it by just building
Well,
another one next to it,
To,
and another one next to
to,
it.
Well,
the chief here
to
and
me-
the building inspector, there's a, which John had told me, there's a caveat. Once you get above like 2 of these, it goes into commercial property, which is a whole different building code.
Well, exactly, as soon as, I believe, chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have a principal dwelling, as soon as you establish the second ADU, that's a multifamily, correct? If you have 2 ADUs with a principal dwelling, that's 3 family?
No,
It would be a third ADU,
it would be a 30.
okay.
Okay.
So they can have up to 2 ADUs without kicking into, okay.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Can you change it?
No, I'm at this point, get something on the books. And I know when we get to town meeting, it's gonna be a free-for-all, so we just better be prepared for a lot of questions that Roger's gonna say, there's a list of questions out to the state, and none of them are answered. So you're just added to the list, that's all we can do at this point.
So, again, if we don't approve something now, then we have, in essence, have nothing on the books because there's a good portion of our bylaws that are inconsistent with the state guidelines.
Yeah, that's why we have to give a favorable recommendation to the,
In where?
To go where? This is the planning board meeting.
Special that's on tonight, is it a special going on?
No,
Over in the Blair Pack, go ahead,
it's the big room over there in the corner.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anything further? I'll entertain a motion.
Is there anybody in the public, since we're,
Anybody from the public, assuming that we'll be able to hear them?
raise your hand or,
I see nobody with their hand raised.
okay, great.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye. Motion carries.
So what was the vote?
3-1.
3-1? There's always one, isn't there?
That's right.
I'll make a motion to send favorable action to the select board on this. No, we make the recommendation. What the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Favorable action to the select board for this.
It's not to select board, recommend favorable action to town meeting.
The town meeting.
Okay, you're right. Yep, you're right, sorry.
Do I have a second on
I'll
that?
second that.
And do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. No.
One no.
Say it loud, say it proud.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I don't want anybody's ears ringing.
Next item, we have another public hearing to consider the addition of Article 15, battery storage system facilities to the zoning bylaws. John, go on.
Thank you. The Rutland Planning Board will hold a public hearing pursuant to MGL, Chapter 48, Section 5 at the Rutland Public Library, 280 Main Street, Rutland, Mass. On Tuesday, April 8, 2025 at 6:30 PM to consider the addition of Article 15, Battery Energy Storage System Facilities to the zoning bylaws. This amendment is available for review in the Town Clerk's Office in Community Hall, 250 Main Street, Rutland, Mass. For more information, please contact John Charbonneau, Town Planner and Community Development Coordinator at 508-886-4100 extension 3001 or at jcharbonneau@townofrutland.org. Norman Anderson, Chairman, Rutland Planning Board. Worcester Telegram and Gazette, March 25th, 2005 and April 1st, 2025. So if I could, just to give a brief introduction and background on this. So, when I started basically a year and a half ago, the bylaw subcommittee had been working with Mr. Corbett over here on this bylaw. And at the time, this bylaw was probably 80 to 85% complete a year and a half ago. The bylaw subcommittee continued work on it up until last fall with the goal of bringing it before the special town meeting. Last fall, it didn't quite make it. It was about probably 95% finished, 96% finished. So we basically tabled it, put it away for a couple, 2-3 months, and then brought it back up this winter in order to bring it forward at this town meeting in May. So this is something that has been worked on, I wanna say for almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. So I would like to qualify any discussion tonight with that, the fact that this has been through thorough review and thorough discussion to bring it to this point. This is not something that is recent, like the accessory dwelling unit bylaw that just came up late last summer. So, I mean, we discussed it at the last meeting and there was some amendments made. Tom and I coordinated. We actually got comments back from town council and we were on the phone the other day going through town council comments and we implemented those comments and I believe they're in here. So, so that's all I have. So again, looking for the board at this point. Any questions? Seth is here, the fire chief is here to answer any questions regarding to fire safety and things like that. But we'd be looking for the board to, after discussion, recommend favorable action to town meeting on this article as well.
I just have one correction on this document
Okay.
that I found. Section 112, item 8.
8 or A?
8.
8, okay.
That needs to be 117, not 17.
Great, thank you.
That was all I had. Other than that,
That's easy.
no, everything else I went through seemed to match up, so that was the one thing that I caught. It was just probably a typo. I missed
Water
some stuff.
protection overlay on 110. Why haven't you got down here, if signed off by DEP, DCR, or MWRA? And
This,
why,
that normally doesn't go into a use table like that. This is just basically the permitting process, whether it's allowed by right, special permit, or prohibited. That level of detail does not go in because that's a separate process outside of the town.
outside of the town, huh? And that's why the town is going to smithereens.
I just was gonna,
And
wait, Dick's on 111, are you on 111 or
111,
Oh,
facilities on some municipal properties. We have a municipal property in town here that has no building allowed on it, where the substation is, because it's all in the watershed. And it all tilts to the water body, so therefore, there is nothing that's gonna be allowed on that piece of property. But if you don't say it or don't put it in here, who the hell in the future is gonna ever care, or once something goes wrong? Then I have a,
so hold on. Can we
Okay.
address these one at a time so we don't get, stuff doesn't slip through the cracks? So, Tom wanted to address the first question on the,
I can speak to environmental in general. So I've permitted probably 25 of these types of projects in various towns throughout central Massachusetts, northern Massachusetts, southern Massachusetts. And DEP, if you have a notice of intent filed with DEP, they all go to Kimberly Roth in the central office, and there's a requirement for containing fire water runoff and things of that nature.
Yes.
So that's a standard requirement from DEP. So anything within a buffer zone going to DEP is gonna be held to that standard. And I believe we provided for that standard in the bylaw as well with the secondary containment measures. That's what the DEP speaks to, so you have to have a way of, first off, I'm sorry, Tom Corbett.
Yes.
I didn't introduce myself. You have to have a way of capturing fire water runoff in the event of, in the potential event of a fire. There's different means of doing that. If you're detaining water on site, it's a lot easier to implement kind of an overland flow into a detention basin that's lined with automatic shut off or probably just remote shutoffs on that type of setup. Other sites where they're tighter, you're retaining water, you don't really have the luxury of detention, and you're infiltrating water. We are addressing that at the source. So right around the battery containers themselves would be a secondary subsurface secondary containment system, similar to that of a electrical substation transformer. So that would be like a bathtub in the event of a fire. The fire water would fall into that subcatchment, and there would be an automatic valve requirement. DEP requires an automatic valve and a remote shutoff as well. So two different means of shutting off the water outlet into the daylight. So the water that gets captured would then be evacuated into a vac truck, clean harbors, and disposed of off-site.
Hazardous waste.
Yeah, it's,
Within 24 hours, because that's not in here, and that's what I wanted in here.
there's certain things that would prohibit within 24 hours if the site was ongoing. So there are things of that nature. There's gonna be a DEP advisor on site, for lack of a better word.
The other thing I
There's a-
wonder about, sorry, Tom, but within 24 hours of what? What marks the start of that 24-hour period?
The end of the
True.
fire.
And Seth could probably speak better to this, but there's NFPA codes that kind of speak to a site professional that has to be there within X amount, and kind of like the site commander, to kind
It's an
of.
instant command situation where you.
There we go,
instant
that's what I'm looking for,
command.
Tim. Yeah.
Sorry, I know that from Eversource, so.
So,
But
hold on, Dick, I'd like to address that quickly. So Seth, would you like to speak to that? Because it seems to me like the end of the fire, who determines that and how is that determined?
So I, as Seth Lane, Fire Chief, I think this is, you're getting into the weeds that has nothing to do with this bylaw. You're getting into regulations that are outside of any regulations of this town. If there was a potential fire at this site, fire department would take command and control of the facility, and we would start fire protection requirements on that site. State hazmat team would be immediately contacted, the site owner would be contacted, a licensed site professional would have to be hired immediately by the site owner to evaluate and test all water samples and runoff during the entire process. Once that information is gathered, then the plan of action and would be filed with DEP on the remediation of the site. That happens very quickly, and it's no different than we would have any type of tanker rollover in the center of town or anything like that. These are things that we deal with on a daily basis in the fire service, and this is nothing that we're not used to handling in any type of scale. So we're very comfortable with dealing with any type of environmental issue if it were ever to arise.
Norm, through you, so Seth, as long as we have the containment area identified, that's as far as we should go.
Correct.
no,
Yes.
Yes.
no, because doesn't the bylaw in town on Muskapog, no building is allowed in the watershed?
But that's not,
That has nothing to do with this. That
Yeah.
comes down to a site plan review. You would say the site does not
Correct.
qualify because of restrictions.
I just want to just make damn sure that nothing can ever be put in there.
so the other thing, I think that gets back to Dick's comment about section 111. On some municipal properties, that's an awfully vague term. And again, when we talk about self-regulatory, if there are environmental restrictions, physical environmental restrictions on a site, then that's going to guide or dictate what can or cannot be done. So I think putting that word, some municipal facilities is way too general, way too ambiguous, and I think could open up a can of worms. I think it should, I recommend it stays as it is, and basically this, you know, whatever site's proposed, whatever physical constraints exist on the site, that will either prohibit something from going in there or restrict or limit the scope of development on that property. We have mechanisms in place, buffer areas and environmental things that basically, I believe, address that type of thing.
John, the only thing is another typo, DC to AC for the KWs.
So where is that? Where is that?
111B.
So what is it? So it should be AC?
Yeah, everything with KWs is AC.
Okay, thank you. I don't know.
Tom, unless I'm wrong, because I understand DC coming from the going to the batteries.
Right.
But the way you quantify the size of it is on the AC load that goes out to the grid.
That's
So-
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So batteries are always
11?
DC, aren't they?
Yeah, but the only way you quantify a KW is
You measure AC.
volts times amps, which is on your AC side, so.
Yep, AC capacity.
Okay, I
Capacity
can make
would be-
that
Just to make
change.
sure
That's
that,
fine.
I'm trying to clear that up, because I advised this young lad wrong,
Yeah.
that it's
So that-
DC, but once it goes to converter, it becomes AC, and that's what goes out onto the grid
Your
from the batteries.
AC's your bucket, your DC's your spout.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yes.
So anyway,
good
so
analogy.
I think we've addressed those two
That's
things.
why all the
Take care of
generators
that
I have
typo,
at
so,
home are DCs.
okay. So moving on.
111A, agriculture. What do you mean agriculture?
BESS facilities for the primary purpose of agriculture.
That would probably, so that I think this is standard language that was worked on with, a lot of this language came from language worked on with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission early on, probably 3 years ago, and developed over the course of the last 3. So that was probably relating to agrivoltaics, in the way that, so farms can have agrivoltaics with solar fields that are up high enough for cows to graze under them, or they're growing vegetables under them, or cranberry bogs underneath, can have an accessory best container, where otherwise it may not be allowed. But you're benefiting.
That's the primary out there, but I would say around here, it is not the primary.
No, it just says, they're exempt facilities that are built primary for agriculture. It means they're primarily powering agricultural
That's correct.
uses.
So the agrivoltaic, and you could remove it if you would like to, I mean, it's a town preference.
There's only one in town here for crying out loud, and he used methane
That would be
digester
true.
for
That's what I
that
was gonna bring
power.
up, yeah.
And the
Yeah,
rest
and-
of them are all gone into the freaking grid, and that's it.
Yeah, and typically when you have something like that where it's a primary purpose of, that you're not exporting energy to the grid like the methane digester may be, you know? So that the primary purpose of agriculture would be for the fundamental use of that property, not for exporting kilowatts to the grid for profit.
Every one of them, solar fields we have here is to the grid.
So,
Yeah, so you don't have to really worry about that clause A. It's just an exemption that's provided for. In the event that there was a solar field powering, say you had a farm pop up, and you guys wanted to power it all on solar, they had the option of adding a battery if it otherwise wasn't allowed.
Which is something, yeah. Think I'm fine with that, cause it gives the farmers an opportunity to use part of their property.
It'd be nice to have a little something in there for it,
So,
but just
set
saying
that-
agriculture,
set that
period, not around here.
oh, you're fine? Okay. Alright.
All right, my last,
You promise?
no. 113,
Uh-huh.
I don't believe in the 25-foot. The noise, or, you know, when I'm on a bike and I out in Amherst and listen to those things out there, you're more than, like about 500 feet from them and still can hear it. So this is what I say, is that the person that is putting in these, batteries.
But this is for tier 1 facilities, correct, number 1?
Which is like a
Section
house.
113? which is basically the same as putting solar panels on your roof. It's a utility. It's not a large scale development, correct, Tom? 113A1?
You still can hear the smaller one for crying out loud. I'm just saying what I
No,
wanted
because
to.
you guys aren't regulating tier one,
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
You
We're saying
are?
250 KWs max for tier one.
Yeah, so that you don't get into the weeds of setbacks and
Right.
such. That's gonna be through building and
That's
fire.
Yeah.
So
But we're limiting the size,
This-
so
So this setback, specifically A1 and A2, I believe, are straight from your solar bylaw. So those are up for debate with you all, obviously. So I can tell you sound will push everything further than 25 feet from a property line.
Yeah.
Typically,
So-
when you have a system like this, like say a 5 megawatt system, your sound is depending on topography, really. If you're on flat plain, you're really at like probably 200 feet by the time you get the decibels
So what's the difference
down.
between these two paragraphs then? Cause one says 25, one says 50.
the first one I thought was tier one, the second one's
Yeah.
listed as tier two. Am I wrong in that? I was thinking one is tier
There
one.
has to be a difference, cause we do mention tier one in section 108.
Yeah.
So I think I need to add in tier one, that's my reading of that.
There should be in front of the best facility.
Yeah, tier
Should
one.
be tier one.
Yeah, that was a
Okay.
tier
It's
one.
missing.
So you guys get into the weeds, alright, so maybe
Yeah,
it might
yeah.
not be necessary to do it.
Well, the only thing I was thinking about,
Yeah.
I'm not worried about tier one and
It's
that
gonna
one,
drive
Dick.
that.
It's the tier two that I'm worried about, where, Tom's saying 200 feet and we got 50. Maybe
See,
we should increase
so
that.
But I have a better
So
idea.
50 foot from property line, I have a project that's 50 foot from property line, but
Okay.
you have an elevation change where sound's not a problem and the land behind it is not developable in a sense.
Yeah, it's
So
not
there-
residential,
Yeah.
essentially.
But there are certain situations where that might come up, but again.
But the thing
it's-
is,
It's the board's pleasure.
This is gonna come, anything within residence districts for tier two is gonna come before the planning board for a special permit.
Yeah.
So
and
the
you'll
planning board
to
will have a
meet-
chance to review this,
you'll have to meet
and
safety requirements.
if you feel that the 50 feet is not enough, you can ask them to
So
increase
is the
that.
at least, John, giving us the leeway to move that farther out?
You can, it's a special permit.
Okay.
You can have them redesign
I just wanna
things.
make sure we got flexibility, Dick, that's what I'm
Well,
looking
what I
for.
wanted was the person that's putting in the battery system to turn around and give the fire chief a noise machine to tell what it is and let him go out there once in a while and
Okay,
There's
monitor.
no, I'm not, I don't wanna get into the weeds of noise things, because that is a slippery slope, because there's all sorts of questions.
Well, then who-
Because, hold on, Dick, please, let me finish. Because where do you measure it from? Do you measure it from the property line? Do you measure it from the house? Where do you measure it from? What machine are you using? Is it calibrated? What are you using? There's way too many questions that pop up where, you can't expect the fire chief to go out and enforce noise. We have a state noise ordinance and,
Noise ordinance, noise concerns are handled by Board of Health, not the
Yes.
fire department.
nah, you look better for it.
So section 115 does cover noise, and it defers to, I believe you guys don't have a noise policy here in town.
No, we go by the state.
So you defer to the DEP noise policy, and that's 10 decibels, no more than 10 decibel change at the property line. And when they model, so sound modeling, it's typical for planning boards to require pre and post sound monitoring. So if I had an application in front of you, my initial application would include sound monitoring of ambient noise level on site. And what they do is they choose the lowest L90, is what they call it, is the lowest noise at that's the quietest point in the full week.
And that's your comparison against the new facility going
They
in.
go from the lowest point for the ambient. So there's different ways that it's measured. They take out the cricket noise, they take out some of the car noise, if it's all, depends on where you're at, location geographically, highways, backyard neighborhood. But what they do is they attenuate in a 3D model, and they can show you what the sound pressures of the system will be at, will sound like at the property lines. And what they do is they put microphone models at the second story windows of all the surrounding houses in a 3D model on a computer, not real life. And then post-construction, you would have sound modeler go out and actually capture those real live numbers, and you would have a condition of approval for mitigating sound, if there was a decibel overage of 10.
The whole thing of it, as it gets older, it gets louder.
There's a lot to the projects when you actually get into the weeds of like a permitting a project. You're gonna do sound, you're gonna do safety, peer reviews, things of that nature.
And the reason I like what Tom's talking about, Dick, is because since it's a special permit, we can add conditions.
Yes.
We can build on any condition that we want for that special
You
permit.
can have the applicant bring in a sound professional to basically show you what it's going to be at their expense. It's another peer review outside of Quinn Engineering. The board has that authority. If you have a project in front of you that's posing traffic problems, you can have the applicant bring on a traffic engineer as a consultant to basically.
study.
Yeah,
That's common practice.
that's under
in every
chapter
town I've worked
53G.
That's what I liked it, just with tier 2, because anything above 250 kW, which is getting to a medium sized, you have the ability to special permit, we can ask for conditions on
Yes.
that, not unreasonable, but we can ask for engineering conditions. So,
I just want it that the public is,
Well, this would be a public hearing, it'd be a special permit. So,
they're protected
yes.
in years to come. Because.
That's why we're putting these regulations in there.
That's why I wanna be a stinker son of a bitch, because, I want it.
Well, we put
I want it there.
we put regulations in there, but again, boards change.
That's
on the board,
That's what I'm
But
getting at.
that's something we have no control over. It depends who's on the board at the
Yeah,
time.
then the-
Norm, I have a question for Seth, since he's here. In this bylaw, under section 115, for the fire safety compliance, I see all the training, everything I like to see. Is there anything in there that you disagree, want, other than a bigger budget? I get that, okay?
No, it's interesting, this actually goes back to April of 2022, when this first started. We met with Boy Scouts at Treasure Valley in February 22, we met with Tom. I actually went and visited a site in Berlin that has the site already built. I brought in our captain of the fire department who works for Eversource, so he has high value knowledge of the sites. And we looked at the proposed bylaw in draft form back then. We reviewed all the fire protection needs. We feel very comfortable with the final draft version that's in front of you tonight.
Okay.
We feel very confident that it's the best we can do at this point. And as you know, as more information comes forward in the types of trailers or battery storage modules get more sophisticated and more advanced, then the safer they'll become. So.
And we could always, if we have to go back and tweak these to keep up with the technology, then we can go back and tweak these.
Well, we, just for information of this board, and I'm sure Seth, you know this, we have a huge battery storage facility in Holden, right next door.
Right.
So we can talk to Mr. Tupper if we ever have questions about, is he running into problems? Has he had complaints? That's something that we can ask as part of a public hearing, when we get to that.
And Sterling Municipal Lights had theirs for almost 10 years. So,
Yeah, it's like
and
2017.
issues, yeah.
And no issues,
No issues at
no,
all.
that's all I wanna hear, I'm glad to hear that, okay.
We're more likely to have an issue with an EV vehicle.
Chargers?
Chargers or lithium ion batteries for your tools in your house.
That'll
we
catch
have-
fire.
Yeah, that will catch fire, burn your house
Yeah.
down, this type of site burning, so.
Yeah, okay, good.
Just a short question on noise. Have you seen sound barriers installed?
I
Like
have,
highway style, I guess, or what do you do to really contain?
so usually it comes as a requirement of a pound per square foot density.
Okay.
Sometimes like sound absorbent walls as well, so they're not just deflecting.
Yeah.
Certain scenarios are
yeah.
gonna call for a certain mitigation level,
Yeah.
but like, so Uxbridge just approved 250 megawatt sites right across 146 from each other. One of the sites has a I think it's up to 15 feet on one side, and it's like 400 feet long for the sound wall.
Okay.
So that's
it's
like
out there.
highway style.
Yeah.
Typically, anything that you would see around a substation, kind of around here, would be pretty typical. 2 pounds per square foot's gonna be like a pretty dense, like double slatted wood stockade fence. Density is pretty much the biggest thing, and it depends on how your sound's bouncing within the site. There's a lot of factors to the sound attenuation. And the 3D modeling is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I watched them do it live, and like putting the fence in, and it shows you exactly what it does instantly. It's interesting.
yeah, it's engineered, so it's quick. If it needs to go up, it can go up.
Yeah, nothing's like real life, so you don't know until after the project, so you always make sure the condition of approval's in there.
I'm good. The only other question I was gonna have for the board, Norm, before I'm done is, I don't have a good solution. I like to usually ask a question when I've got a solution. For the abandonment and decommissioning, it's always bothered me of how we handle the financing of that. Because, we went through, what the heck did we deal with, was it the solar where we came up with a number and then like 6% or something like that added on? Well, Tom, I guess I'm looking, because this doesn't really,
Well, I think we talked about this, Tim, and you can't set a price on it right now. Because what you'd do is you would come in and you'd get a quote as far as what the decommissioning and the removal would cost. Similar to finishing a roadway bond. You would get a quote at the time, and that's how much you would take in. And what's great about that, unlike roadway bonds that don't age very well most of the time, they end up being not close to enough to finish the roadway if the bond's taken by the board because the price of asphalt goes up so much. But this is something you deal with at the time. You get a quote for the removal, decommissioning removal, and to restore the site, and that's what you ask them for, similar to a scope of work.
I guess what I'm asking for is teeth. That's, because I'm reading this financial certainty and I'm not sure.
Didn't we have one always though on the solar?
I think that's what this is.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
I'm good, I'm just asking.
Basically says
Discussion, right? So
Prior to final inspection, the applicant shall provide a form of surety, either through a cash deposit, bond, or otherwise acceptable to the board, in an amount determined by the planning board to cover the cost of removal and site restoration. Such surety will not be required for municipal facilities. The applicant shall submit a fully inclusive estimate of the costs associated with removal, prepared by a qualified engineer. The amount shall include an escalator for calculating increased removal costs due to inflation. I don't know how much more you can put in there, really. That's.
And I've actively been doing decommissioning bonds,
increased.
For some projects that I've permitted over the past few years. I can tell you that it's gonna involve all your site work, all your taking out of your utilities, your typical stuff that you'll see in a breakdown of decommissioning of a solar field.
I'm good for that.
But it's gonna have to include your battery recycling as well.
Yeah.
Which is a cost, it's about 95 cents a pound right now.
I'm good because the piece that it really got highlighted, John highlighted, acceptable to the planning
Yes.
board.
Yep.
It's our call then.
Yep. Yeah,
That's where I think the teeth are what I was looking for.
And I'll give you some input too, it's very regular for planning boards to have that peer reviewed as well, outside of a Quinn
Of course,
engineering.
yeah.
No, I would send this to a PE registered, somebody that's been in this business for a while.
Agreed.
And ask for that, look at it, so I'm good. That was my last question, was 117.
Carrie Wrestler, 5 East Hill. I know this is tier 1 and tier 2. Could somebody come in and wanna put in a facility like they wanna put in Ocam? Would this touch any of that, any of the regulations for that?
I will speak to that. So the facility that the company's looking to put in Ocam, I believe is like upwards of 200 megawatts. I'm not positive, I haven't been following it too closely, I just see some chatter here and there.
It's now 180.
What's that?
It's now 180.
180?
Still,
Yeah.
it's a power.
Yeah, I think that's about what that KV line can actually hold over there. So that
No, this would
project's,
not regulate that because
It's
this
not gonna
starts
regulate
at
it.
250.
they're gonna
No.
go to the state at the end of the
Yes.
day anyway.
Yes.
They're gonna be involved in this area, they're gonna be involved with DEP, they're gonna be dragged into state permitting no matter what, unless the town chose to take on those projects.
But this bylaw does not
It's a lot for a board.
address a facility that size. It's 180, this starts at 250.
We
Yeah,
ended 10 megawatts here, so nothing above 10 megawatts we're gonna touch with a 10-foot pole.
So it's 250 kilowatts, what you're talking about is 180.
No, 180
180
megawatts.
Oh, okay, oh, so
So
this would regulate that, okay.
No,
I'm
the
getting-
OCAM, so the OCAM project, there's a
Alright.
project proposed in
Okay.
OCAM on like Coldbrook Road.
Yeah, so what, how many, what's that?
180 megawatts.
Okay, so that is, this
it's
would,
outside the
this
scope
would
of
catch
this
that,
bylaw.
yes, I
No, it
was wrong.
won't catch it. We only go to 10 megawatts.
Yeah, it's outside the scope of this bylaw
Okay.
as far as
Okay,
regulation goes.
I don't.
But the state,
The one OCAM, it's
Yeah,
massive.
for here.
it's gonna
Here,
go,
we can only go to
This is
10
much smaller.
megawatts, so
Yeah.
how big is that?
so
Oh,
it's
so no, we don't, in other words, I can, we don't allow that, something that large here. We stop at 10 megawatts, that one's 180 megawatts. So no, that would not be allowed in this town, under this bylaw.
but it's
That would
not-
be a tier 3, correct?
But it's not to say that they can't go to the state.
Right,
And the
because
state's coming out
seems
with
to
permitting
override.
regulations within like the next year or so, they're
Right.
probably behind, but, the state's gonna really take over the control of permitting anything like 25 megawatts or more.
That's 940 acres. I don't know where we're gonna get 940 acres around here. Cause 180 megawatts, if it was a solar field that the battery was trying to charge, they need 940 acres if you assume 5 acres to a megawatt for a solar field.
Yeah, this is, so OCAM's on a
OCAM's like-
49 acre site,
Okay.
and it's, and their tractor trailer size trailers.
Oh, so they're gonna keep charging the batteries day after day?
Yeah, but no, this is not
Demand
solar.
response.
This is directly off high tension line.
Oh, they're
to
going off the
battery.
substation control.
No,
Yeah,
no.
they're 345 kV or
That's what I
110,
meant.
115 into there, but
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they're gonna be on, this is only a distribution level,
Oh,
so street side interconnect, just like your solar fields. So you get your transformer recloser at the street, and then all your other
We
equipment's
weren't,
inside the fence.
we wanted to stay away from that tier 3 large systems. We didn't wanna go above like, what's
St.
Treasure
Joseph.
Valley? Is that
Right.
like 5 or 7 megawatts?
Yeah. St. Joseph's Abbey is 600,
KWs?
yeah, I think it was
Treasure
600
Valley's-
acres, I think it was huge.
6? So we were basically looking to regulate the biggest one we have here, which is Treasure Valley, which is 6 megawatts. So I don't think there's anything else bigger in Rutland right now than Treasure Valley.
But if someone wanted to do something bigger, they
If
could go
somebody,
petition the
if,
state.
if the company came in like they are in OCAM, which they already tried a little bit closer over here in
Yeah,
OCAM.
East Hill.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
East Hill, a couple of years ago, I think, last time we were talking about this here. If they wanted to, they would go to the Department of Public Utilities. And they'd end up in front of the Energy Facility Siting Board and the Department of Public Utilities for permitting. And that permitting path is a little undefined at the moment, and they're going through a lot of revisions. There's 15 three-letter acronym subcommittees going through all kinds of permitting exercises and siting exercises to put final documentation forth for one, a statewide standardized permit for anything under 25 megawatts.
But they could bypass the town if it's something bigger that our bylaw doesn't cover.
And they can bypass the town to go to the state. And that's what they're doing over there with the
Right.
Energy Facility Siting Board.
So why was the decision to stay away from that size facility?
We don't wanna deal with a substation facility here.
But I'm hearing that they can go around the town and go to the state, and then this board and this town doesn't get to review it, correct?
There's stakeholder sessions, so there are stakeholder sessions through the DPU process that would ask the town, and this is where you guys have teeth, right? You guys have a bylaw that states what you want out of things. So that's where you turn around and you have bylaws to reference your argument to the DPU, whereas if you don't have anything, you have nothing to say. But there's no say, they're not gonna listen, and they're just gonna say, okay, this is what you're gonna follow.
But it takes it out of our hands, and we don't have a public hearing process, we don't have a butters come down. Basically, it's above the
Butters have a
town.
process as well through the DPU, So, like, there's multiple stakeholders, there's community outreach required. There's a lot to the DPU process, and a project like that in OCAM, it's not, you don't wanna fight it out here in the planning board. It'd take you 2 years, I've seen it, and you let it go to the state, you have your internal meetings in town, you get the consensus, you give your recommendation to the DPU, and then draw down from there, it's all appealable.
The other reason, John, we stayed with it, we only have 2 substations in town that could qualify for this north and south. And at least when we were doing this, we felt that this is not, why put a bylaw together for 2 sites that probably aren't gonna be used by grid right now because substations can't handle anymore. and they hadn't had what's the word I'm looking for, Grid hasn't mentioned any use of it, so.
Okay.
Tier 1 and tier 2, based on when, I God rest his soul, when Lester was around, those were the two ones that he thought we should focus on, the electrical inspector side, so that's what we did.
Yeah,
That was
anything tier 3, that's connecting to a 115 kV line and like your transmission easements, you really wanna be within 1,000 feet of a transmission line. So that's gonna kinda limit, so you can follow the transmission lines through Treasure Valley and everywhere and put like a radius and kind of assume where something like that could go, right? But outside of this, it's outside of this bylaw.
Anything else? Anything from out in Cyper? Anyone out there?
Don't see any hands.
Don't see anything. Then I'll entertain a motion.
Before we do that, Norm, I just wanna, I know Roger's on, we've already had this reviewed by town council and we're good to go, correct?
Yes. Yes, and actually Roger wasn't the one that reviewed it, it was another staff member, so.
Okay. Good enough. Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
Thanks, Seth.
Thanks, chief.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Alright.
Aye.
Aye. And with that, motion for recommendation.
I'll make a motion to recommend the battery energy storage system facility bylaw.
We recommend favorable action.
Yep,
to
I was
town
gonna
meeting.
recommend this as favorable action for town meeting.
I'll second that.
And any discussion on that one? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright.
The only thing to the
Unanimous.
planning board I would ask is, if during town meeting, if we could have our technical consultant, because I can answer a few things, but you got way more experience than I do.
I do this every day, so I'd be
Okay.
happy to. I have no conflict in town, I don't have active site control, I'm not looking for a project right now, so.
I just want, if somebody gets into the weeds,
Right.
I don't want the
Happy to
planning board
provide
to
some
sit there
info.
like a bunch of buffoons and.
I'm in it every
basically-
day. I permit
Perfect.
these every day.
So I wanted to make sure the board was okay with that, that we'll have Tom there as a
It's
technical
done very well
liaison.
answering questions so far.
Thank you,
so.
Tom.
It's always
Big
fun.
words.
Thank you, Tom, appreciate
Yeah,
it.
you like this stuff, it's, yeah, it's good.
Okay, next item, correspondence, email from.
You're good.
Tamika.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
So we
Take your questions.
Wetlands.
attach just for informational purposes. Thank you, folks.
Take care.
It's time to start putting in those rear protected plant species that can't be disturbed down around Treasure Valley.
Really? Oh my God, that's a good idea. Wow, all right.
Salamanders underneath the,
Mr. Chair?
Get home, I'm gonna get a hold of Randy.
are we,
Roger, you're all set.
have a good night, Roger,
Thank you,
thanks.
Roger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, John, members, have a great night.
Thank you. Okay, so, continuing.
One second, I gotta get this turned down.
Okay, so anyway, the stuff that came from Tamika. it
Yep, that's just
looks like-
informational purposes.
But it looks like, DEP, DCR, whoever the
Yep.
heck it is.
Yes.
They're raising some particular hell.
Yeah. So that's just to keep the planning board in the loop on what's happening.
Yeah. So,
You have a document from me. The state actually voted to extend the ability of municipal boards to hold hybrid / Zoom meetings until 2027, which I know the board, some of the board disagree with something. I actually think it's a good thing, and I think it should be permanent. That's my opinion. I think it allows more accessibility to people who might not otherwise be able to attend meetings, so I think it's a good thing. So, the
You
other
have the technology to do it.
Yeah.
when it works. So
When it
anyway,
works.
the other thing I have for the board is I need your signatures because the state is bugging us for this. So if you please, gentlemen, could please.
State
Yeah.
or,
No, the state is bugging us for this. Tamika sent me an email from someone from the state that they.
well, I
so
thought the
Dickory
only
signed
one
this.
that we used to sign, period, was for the,
I'm just telling you, I got,
Registry of Deeds.
I got something from somebody at the state who wants our, who wants an update on the signatures, so.
It says date of next election, May 2025.
you have to sign both?
No, just that one, cause Dick gave me one that he signed already, so, just one.
Okay.
Right.
I'll sign Britton's name.
Oh, that's right, I gotta get Britton's signature still.
Sorry, I thought I'd throw that out there, John.
And Alex.
Yes, and Alex, so. Oh, that's right, so. No, you have to sign this one, cause I added Alex's name to it. I do have one where I added Alex's name. So I brought it with me, where is it? Alright, where's the one with Alex's name? I did add
Signature
that.
can open a credit card.
Why don't you just use your auto pen? You can sign.
Don't
sign all the
start the
time.
political, don't start this political fight.
So I apologize. I did add Alex's name, I thought I brought it with me, but I'll have to do it at the next meeting, I apologize. So I did Alex's name, but I must have printed out, my apologies.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll do it at the
It's
next
coming
meeting.
down the street.
Okay, so,
I could let that sign for me too.
this is something that Tim asked me to, Tim, if you want to explain this.
Yes, there's a document that is circulating. Unfortunately, the letter that was sent to the select board, didn't make it in time when they voted on the budget. So John's, and only John outside of our town administrator, Austin, he's the only one that is not having his salary set to the 2025 level. It's being reduced with the thought process that the planning board's revolving fund can take care of that. I am not happy with that. So the FICOM has a meeting tomorrow. And what I would like to do is send this letter to them, somewhat similar to what we sent to the select board, except in this letter, we're indicating that we want his salary, like they've done with the rest of the budget, taken out of free cash and added to the, it's the word I'm looking for, the money-
Level fund.
Level funded, thank you. Level funded, so, but I'd like to have some norms, some sticking behind it, the whole board signs it. And then that's sent to Alex Mowat, who is the chairman of the FICOM. And John, the only thing I thought of is just in case he doesn't get it, could you copy the vice chair?
Well, hold on, who's bringing this, who's sending this? Cause I'm processing this, but I don't know how you want this processed. I can't send this. I don't think that would be appropriate.
I need somebody else to send it, because if I send it, my wife has to recuse herself from the FICOM. So I need somebody else to send this, I don't care who, but
Thought you had said on the phone that,
she told me that if my name's attached to the email, that she's gonna have to recuse herself.
Your family member. Yeah.
Yep,
okay.
so,
I just took my training, that's all I know.
thanks. Thanks, so,
At least that's what I surmised from it.
I'd asked Britton to do it because he was more adamant than I am, but he's not here.
He's not here.
He does some finance stuff though too, doesn't he? Isn't he on the
What's that?
Isn't he on the finance?
No, Britton isn't.
I don't mind doing it, but I don't know if I have the contact.
I can get you his contact information, I don't mind doing that, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to send that. I drafted the letter on behalf of the board, but that's as far as I wanna go with that.
Let me ask Norm, I don't know if I should ask this. Should we give this, unfortunately, I've got too much going tomorrow, I can't get to the town hall. Ask this to be, no, we probably don't wanna ask the town administrator to forward it to the FICOM. I'm guessing it should be us.
You're saying they need it for
They gotta have it by,
48 hours?
they gotta, no, they need to have it
So
tomorrow.
here's what I can do. Because we have the technology, I can scan it in and email it to you, Norm, and give you Alex's contact information, and you can send it to him. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do
And
that.
if you could get from somebody, I want the vice chairman, cause I don't wanna hear tomorrow at their meeting, I didn't get it. I want both of them to
Okay,
get it.
okay,
Cause
alright.
I'm,
Okay.
this, yeah,
It
Okay,
happened, yeah.
it happens, and I'm not, I guess I'm playing devil's advocate. I want everything covered, because if this doesn't happen tomorrow night, then that letter, I'm gonna tell the board, I'm standing up as a citizen and reading that to the town, wanting it taken out of free cash. Cause I'm not coming out of our revolving fund.
It doesn't say free cash on that.
It does, I changed it, and it says right here, Norm, in the first paragraph.
Oh, okay.
That was my 5:15 call to John.
Dick Williams, who's he?
Now, I guess I'm just asking,
I'm okay
is everybody
with-
okay with this?
Yeah.
Cause
Funding,
I'm
John.
frustrated.
You know,
Let me
and
sign it.
Tim needs to sign it.
if it were impossible to fund his position any other way, I'd say, okay, yeah, we take our. But I don't think it's impossible. for them
And
to
since
come up
Alex
with
and Britton aren't here tonight, it's not possible to get their signatures tonight unless, I mean, this is time sensitive, so I mean, I can't wait for them necessarily to sign, to come in late tomorrow to sign it, so, we have to
Yeah.
process it the way it is.
I'm
so.
fine with that.
Okay,
We've got a majority, we got 4 out of 6.
okay.
Present.
4 out of 5, because the associate member doesn't,
Yeah.
I know, but I still like to have his
Yes.
input too. And Norm, I guess I'd have less a problem with this if the Board of Health was using their reserve fund, but they're not.
I think my biggest problem is reducing John's salary allotment. Particularly where they're not reducing others,
Correct.
just diminishes the appearance of the value of his job.
That's what got me wound up. Because this gentleman not serves the planning board, he serves RDIC, he serves EDC. And he also serves the town administrator as a direct report. I don't know what else. So anyhow, that's enough said. I don't wanna.
so I did get a text from Tamika that the Board of Health agent and Lynn are paid through the Board of Health revolving fund. So,
They are.
yes.
Okay, I'm not getting into that argument. Then why is it on the general fund I'm not gonna get into that argument. Anyhow,
I mean, we could raise our fees so we can fund your position entirely, right? 'Cause-
no,
We just did.
Well, we,
did the
Keith,
free-
No, but
hold
that's
on, we looked at our application fees last year, and our fees are already high.
There.
No, it was a joke.
Yeah,
oh,
okay.
okay, you're worrying the heck out of me.
Cause I mean, obviously, after you do this, how many times before there's no money, and then they're just gonna
I've
say.
already done this once,
Yeah, so I mean,
but it never happened because the override went
yeah,
through.
it did pass, yeah. So I mean, it's not really sustainable, so you could say it is now, but it won't be in the future. Unless we raise our fees tonight to.
Oh, God, I don't think it's
such-
possible to raise our fees to
Yeah.
that level.
No, I know.
We could figure on some new fees maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's-
We,
and
we,
it's-
we could,
and
we could
it's-
charge a cover charge when people come to
Yeah,
the meetings.
right, yeah, there you go.
You wanna speak? $5, please, $10, 15.
We could be like church where you go around and have the basket, have the usher. Dick, when you retire from the planning board, do you wanna be an usher?
$10 a minute.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my God.
So anyway, so I will do that tomorrow. I will scan it in and I will email it to you, with the email addresses of the chair and the vice chair.
Yeah, it's Darren Ross is the vice chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I'm passionate about this and anyhow, it is what it is.
So I do wanna mention during planner's report, Norm, if I could, I won't take long. We do have some, non-residential applications on coming in the future. Was speaking to a gentleman who wants to open up an auto repair service station where near Century Oil in an existing building. I believe there was a service station there, but this guy's replacing it. But it is a special permitted use, so it's gonna be coming before the board for a public hearing for a special permit for that use.
I wonder if that's where, Deverell School's got,
That's gonna say must be.
yeah.
Yeah,
Must
so.
be changing.
Yeah, so, that's gonna be coming forward. I did get a communication from the gentleman who owns the dental office down on Main Street. He's gonna be coming for a site plan review modification that apparently this was approved by the board. Tamika provided that, to me today. It was before there was a town planner, but he wants to add to his parking, so that's a modification to his site plan review. So that's another one that'll be coming forward.
That'd be nice because they see the cars on the lawns and all.
Yeah, but he sent me the site plan that was approved with a hand-drawn error, and I said, that's not gonna be acceptable. You have to have it, an engineer revise the plans and show the parking area to scale, formally, so that's another one that's gonna be coming forward.
Okay.
When we get to the non-anticipated, give me a thumbs up, I got one more thing to bring
I'm all
forward.
set, Tim.
I wanna get this on the next agenda, I'm putting out for food for thought, I don't want any discussion, but, the town administrator, and I'm giving him full credit for this, cause he's the one that got me thinking about it. Austin, when we finished our RDIC meeting up, we'd come up with some numbers of what 61A, 61B and land that's out there, and it's well over 2,000 acres. So that's a significant amount of land that could be developed. And I think, maybe we should think about or start discussing, maybe we send to the bylaw subcommittee review of increasing our residential zones, and I'm just giving a suggestion out there from R40 and R60 to R60 and R80. And then appropriate increase of frontage. Just thought process, think about it, we can talk about the next meeting and see
Yeah, I
if we
would
wanna move
limit
forward.
discussion tonight, because again, that was.
I don't wanna have any, I just wanna,
But I know people are gonna be tempted to give opinions on this, but please don't, let's put it on an agenda.
me later. No, but I think it's something, we have an opportunity, this board, we should, I hadn't thought it from the perspective of how much land's left out there. I thought Rutland was pretty much, most of the good stuff was gone, but that's an incorrect assumption, because there's a lot of 61A and 61B land out there. So I think this board should think about it and possibly pursue changing those in the near future. That's it. And we can talk about the next meeting by putting it on
That's a good
tonight.
idea.
And I think in the future, you ought to find out just how much land is taken up by APR as well. That cannot be changed. I have something that I was a little very upset because I had asked, not only John, but Tamika to get it on tonight's. And that is the $250 per lot for, Britnell Estates.
The reason that wasn't put on, Dick, is I have to look into that and do my homework on that before that's discussed, because I'd have to look into if that's been collected, where it's been collected. If it also, I have to look into that administratively before we talk
And
about
just,
that.
and then
I can tell you it has not been collected.
it has not been collected, and also, I don't know if we have to get permission from the select board, because it's going to the Ag Commission, to their chapter 8H or whatever it is that, the town passed for land acquisitions in the future.
Is there language on this in the decision for Britnell?
Yes.
There is it has to go to a special account, and that is what
Okay,
that
so I need
account
to look at
is.
that language and need to figure, okay, so I will look at that and.
I remember that being in the conditions
I
of the.
don't remember it going to a specific account.
But I don't wanna run into the same thing as with the mitigation for the pump stations, where we've lost our chance to collect these funds because it was supposed to be done at a certain time. So I need to look into that before we really dig into that, because I'm not I'm not positive we can start collecting those now. I'm not saying we can't, but I need to look at the language.
Well, if someone knew they were supposed to submit the payments, then.
But it, that doesn't,
He's gonna look the other
that doesn't-
way.
Is negligence
No,
allowed?
because the language,
saying it
for
is,
instance, for the mitigation for the pump stations, it clearly states at the time of application. That wasn't done, so once the projects are approved, they're no longer at the time of application, we've lost our chance to collect it. So I wanna look at the language, I don't wanna assume or speculate, I need to look at the language to see what it says.
Yeah, let's just do that, but at least let's get rolling on it.
Get rolling, please. And I feel that also we should be looking back, is there any other special permits out there with conditions that maybe we should have checked on?
Yeah, Moose Crossing, affordable housing. Sorry.
Was it?
It was,
It was?
but there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I know there's nothing you can do
And
about it,
you and I
but
talked about this, Dick,
want
and we
education.
didn't say it was gonna be on this agenda. I think I said it was a good time to bring it up on the next agenda. So I think that was the discussion, so I will look into that.
Guess the last thing we probably need to do, if there's nothing more, bless you. I'll close the bylaw subcommittee since we're
So
through
moved.
two bylaws. But we still got the public comment, so we probably should ask, let's see, Carol's out there.
Yeah.
And Alex.
Do we have anything for public comment on the planning board? I hear silence.
That was you.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm gonna sign off on Zoom then, so. I think the next thing is a motion to close,
Bylaw.
Adjourn.
subcommittee.
Oh,
Need a second.
So moved.
Second,
Second, yeah, go
Any
ahead.
discussion?
all of us.
All of us.
Vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
4-0, closed. All right, I'm done.
Motion to close planning board.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're done.
8:20, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take care.
good night, guys.